my panel. We're, thank- we're thankful for your attendance today and are excited to answer all your questions about college admissions, essays, and extracurriculars. So what is the Youth Economics Initiative? We're a student-run nonprofit organization dedicated to providing application-based and in-depth economics experience for high school students all around the world. For the 2024 to 2025 school year, our CEO is Sakib and COO is Alvina. I'd also like to introduce the Youth Economics Initiative Clubs program. With over 4,424 youth members and 94 clubs worldwide, we've been able to develop a community of economic enthusiasts. Our Economics Clubs program gives you access to comprehensive AP/IB program curriculum, exclusive YEI events, and professor networking opportunities. Now you can join us. First, fill out a short form on our website to register your club. If your application is successful, you'll receive guidance from our club department on how to start it up and gain members. Lastly, launch your own club. We're so thrilled for you to join us.
All right, so what's in it for today? First, we'll start with a brief introduction about the organization. Next, we'll introduce our speakers and learn more about essays, extracurriculars, and timelines. And then we'll move into an open audience Q&A session and end off with some closing remarks. This event will last approximately an hour. So let's meet our panelists. Please welcome Anita Wasserman from UPenn, Darian Fan from UCLA, Chinmay Chutamuri, and Siton Zan from NYU Stern, and Jessica Cheng from UC Davis. Let's start with Anita.
All right, hi everyone. So my name is Anita and I'm an incoming first year at Wharton, which is really exciting. And although you declare your concentration in second year, I'm interested in doing business economics and public policy, but we'll see. Might add something else to that. At the YI, I was events coordinator when I was in grade 10, the VP events when I was in grade 11, and then on the chief executive officer when I was in grade 12. I went to school to Thornhill Secondary School, which is a school in Canada, just a normal public school. And some fun facts about me is that I love photography, the outdoors, and watching documentaries on 2x speed.
How's it going, guys? I'm Darian. I'm gonna be a senior at UCLA. I'm a double major in math econ and stats data science. And I'm kind of old. I was the resource staffer in 2020 and the VP of resources in 2021. I actually won the first econ bowl. That's why I applied. And then I wrote the first econ Olympiad. I'm from Dublin High, and I love Twitter and the emoji.
Hi guys, I'm Chinmay and I'm an incoming freshman at the Stern School of Business. I'm planning on doing 2 concentrations, so in finance and entrepreneurship and a minor in data science. I was the ex COO at the YEI and previously a flip partnership manager. I went to a charter school in Somerset, New Jersey, and a fun fact is that I'm a twin.
Hello, I'm Satan. So I'm also an incoming freshman at NYU Stern School of Business, and just like Jemai, I'm also most likely concentrating in finance, and I'm thinking about something with quantitative economics and maybe a minor in mathematics as well. And I worked as a sponsorship and grant coordinator at the YEI, and I go to a public school in Northborough, Massachusetts, and I play competitive badminton, and I actually really like to play poker. So yeah.
Thank you everyone for your introductions. We're so glad to have you all back. So now to start off, what were your high school statistics? So GPA, SAT, and ACT score if you submitted that, your class rank, etc. And for the sake of simplicity, let's just go in the same order, starting with Anita.
Yeah, so in Canada and in a lot of international countries, GPA is not a thing. So out of 100, my GPA, you could say, I wrote down that I had a 96. I think that was my average all throughout high school. For my ACTA, I took it once. I got a 35. So if you're interested in subscore, it was 36 math and English, and then the rest were like 34, I think. Class rank I didn't have, but that's pretty much it. I feel like high school statistics are important, but they're not the only reason you're going to get into some of these schools.
Great, and then we can move on to Darian.
Yeah, for sure. I had like a 4.3 or a 4.4 on like the 4.0 system, and then I had an SAT of 1560, but like it didn't matter because I was applying during COVID.
Okay, I guess I can go next. My weighted GPA was a 4.75 and my unweighted was a 4.0. I actually went test optional for NYU and I was in the top 10 of my graduating class.
Yeah, so for me, my unweighted GPA was a 4.0 and my weighted was I think a 4.5-ish. And I took the SAT personally, and after I think I had a 1560 for the SAT was what I submitted to NYU, and our school does not do class ranks. And then I think during the time of application, a couple AP test scores, like maybe 5 or 6, around the 4 to 5 range.
Great, thank you all for this information. So moving on to essays now. What types of essays were you guys required to write about? And what were some of the topics that you wrote about, if you're comfortable sharing that?
So there's many different types of schools, some that don't require essays at all. I applied to schools in Canada and the US, but I'm assuming most people are interested in US schools here. So for my schools, majority of them had more essays. So you have the Common App essay, but you also have the supplemental essays. So I applied just to reach schools because I had my safeties in Canada, but a lot of them had like reoccurring essays, like a community essay, like tell us about a time you were part of a community. Tell us about something that sparked your academic curiosity. Tell us why you're interested in this school. And based on that, I was able to kind of structure an essay outline for each of those types of essays, which really cut down on the amount of work that I had to do because I was reusing kind of.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's probably gonna be easier if I just talk about the UC PIQs. So for those that like aren't familiar with like the UC PIQs, they're like the University of California personal insight questions. So that they give you like a list of 8 topics to choose from, and then you can choose like 4 to write about. So if you're familiar with like the prompts, I had like the greatest skill, like my most significant challenge, the subjects that inspired me, and like beyond what I've shared. I feel like for just personal statements, I kind of just like I have a bunch of Oh yeah, I have a bunch of anecdotes, which is like pretty fun. So, okay, I'll like share a bit of my essay. That's like the beyond what you've shared. So, okay, I feel like I have like a very interest. Okay, yeah. I'll just like go into why I wrote that. Okay, so I started off the essay by saying like I'm the most humble, most serious, and most hardworking person you've ever met. You never find anyone as humble, serious, or hardworking as me. Like, all joking aside, I stand out because I have the confidence to submit my application with 2 above sentences. What student's gonna take such a risky answer? Me. Like, I thought that was kind of hard when I wrote it. You know, like that. I thought it was kind of hard. So that's why I submitted that. But I think it's like, as long as you like have a voice, as long as you know what you're talking about and have something that you want to express, I think you're gonna be fine. So like, I feel like I also wrote about like I was really into economics. Like, I liked like hanging out with my friends. So I feel like as long as you write about like something that's like deeply personal to you or like something that only you can express, I think that's where like your best essays are gonna come from.
Yeah, so for NYU, I think there was a list of like 6 quotes that we had to choose. Like we had to choose one of them and we had to write like 250 words on like pick a quote and explain like why it kind of resonates with us and why. So the one I chose was about like change and I chose to write about like this watershed institute that I've been a part of for my 4 years of high school, and I was like very passionate about like water advocacy, and I did like a lot of environmental related stuff related to that. So I kind of wrote about what kind of inspired me to drive change and like some recognition I got, such as being published like a video that me and my brother made, like it got published on the North Brunswick My Township website. And most importantly, just connected that to like NYU and why I would want to kind of continue that there and some like programs or resources that the school provides. So yeah, but something I just suggest is I think like some of the other panelists can also like add on to this, but I think it's very important to kind of connect whatever you did in high school, whatever you're passionate about, to what the school will be able to offer, because they just want to see if you're going to be a good fit for the school. So yeah.
Yeah.
I can speak for me personally regarding my PIQs. I personally feel like if you're not gunning for any UC that's like crazy, it doesn't really matter what you write as long as your GPA is good. Because yeah, I wrote mine the day before they were due. So yeah, I didn't get rejected anywhere. I didn't get into a lot of places, but for like UCs at least, they only really matter when you're like borderline. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it was, I mean, I also applied to NYU, and and the type of essays, I think everyone's pretty much covered that. You had the community or theme, and then you have the personal supplements, like Anita said. For me specifically, the topics that I wrote about, I think it was the quote about how, I think the quote went along the lines of, wouldn't it be sad if you had to fly but not had to walk? And for me, I interpreted that as like it's important to get your basics and fundamentals down. So, and I wrote an essay about having good basic skills in badminton. But I think what really colleges want to see, as well as what everyone else has mentioned, is like how well you yourself can interpret the question and how you can make of it. Because I think there's like you can either be really, really introspective and a really good writer, and that can make a good essay, or you can be someone who's very meticulous and you plan what you want to show. So I try to go for the first one where I really dived into myself and try to write something introspective and I guess almost philosophical in a way.
Great. Yeah, essays are one of, if not the most important part of your application. So thank you guys. And to all the rising seniors that are starting college applications right now, what advice would you give to them in terms of brainstorming and drafting their college essays?
Going off of what Darian said, anecdotes. So anecdotes are your best friend. They're what you write about that makes you seem human and also differentiate you from other applicants. So what that means is that you should have a Google Doc document. And on this Google Doc document, you can just write down different anecdotes that come to mind. To maybe something that influenced your life, maybe a hardship, or it could be something that you learned at school that influenced your interest in economics, or a community that you've been part of, maybe some event that you did, and some moment that changed your realization about such a community. So just have a document. I had a 6-page document just of random things that I can remember from my childhood, from high school, that I think really shaped me as a person. And then going off of that, I started thinking of themes that I saw within those anecdotes and separated those by themes, which got me thinking about what type of essay I would want to write.
Compared to Anita, I think I had a very like decentralized approach. I didn't really have any structure. I would just like talk with my friends and then like whatever like it was like, oh bro, like, oh that's so crazy. You should write about that. And then like you would try to write it. But I feel like with the UCs, right? You got like 4 PIQs. You're probably gonna have like 2 or 3 solid essays or like 1 or 2 like essays, like, like I don't know if I want to submit that. But like honestly, just like, keep talking through your friends. Like I think the worst thing you can do is just like lock in for like 12 hours, just like sit there. Like, I mean, like, have fun, right? Like, ideas are gonna come to you, and at most, it's like 350 words. It's like, it'll come, and it's like, if it's bad, like, you got 3 other essays to work on. So, like, you guys are gonna be fine, but just like, don't spend all your time like brainstorming and drafting, you know? Like, I feel like they want like a person that's like had experiences. It's like, yeah, you know, like, yeah, your stats are cool. Yeah, you did like, yeah, you founded a nonprofit. No, that's all right. But like, it's like cool, right? They want to see like how you are as a person, how you express yourself. So I mean, just like what do you do in your free time? And just like try to channel that into your essay. I think just like taking it like a little more easy would be my advice.
That's true. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's very helpful to bounce ideas off other people. Just like talk with people. Sometimes we'll just like sit there and not get any ideas. So like the harder you think, the less you'll actually come up with. So just like take it slow. Like for me, I know I said that I wrote them the day before, but that's because like I had all my ideas already there. I just couldn't get to the writing part. But yeah, so just talk with people, take like a good amount of time to like think through things, but don't lock yourself in your room and just try to write stuff because that usually doesn't work too well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say for me, I spent like I think around this time last year kind of like just thinking about, well, starting like after school ended, just kind of try to think about what I want to write about, at least for my personal statement. What I found helpful is like for example, I always knew that I wanted to write about like cooking, which is something I'm very passionate about. So for me, I just literally just started writing like whatever just came to mind, and then from there I kind of took it from there, talked to people, and kind of like improved it. And then once I kind of got like a basic draft, I kind of like just gave it to people who were like went to schools that I was also applying to try to see what they would say. But I would just say, like, if you're kind of stuck, I would say maybe start writing, see how it is, and see how like the flow of the writing is going. And don't be afraid to kind of like keep editing. I think some of my like supplements I edited more than like 10 times. So I think it definitely takes time. But yeah, and also another thing is just try to be like, I think some of the other panelists like talked about like expressing yourself and stuff like that. So just like try to be creative, think outside of the box, and I guess it kind of just like shows the type of person you are. For example, my personal statement, it was about cooking, but I actually wrote it in like a recipe format. But it was actually about women in business. So I guess that ties in different things, but it kind of shows that, you know, someone's trying to think outside the box and trying to be creative. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess like this question, there's two parts to it, right? The brainstorming and the drafting part. So for me, the brainstorming part, I completely agree with Darian for this. 100%. The biggest part for me was my ideas, or half of my ideas are just on my phone's notepad because it's random ideas I came up with while I was outside, just like doing random stuff. I think that summer, I sort of purposely went out like every single day just to like have fun, chill with my friends, and then see if anything popped up to mind. Like for example, one idea that popped up to mind was when I was visiting my friend's chicken farm. So I think things like that is really important to give you like an idea that's I think unique and I think fun in a way because I think the most important part of why that's important is just sitting at a desk is really hard for you to have like the spark. And also, I think if you're applying to these, especially if you're looking at higher end schools, most schools, like Darren said, like, yeah, you did nonprofit, yeah, you did that, like, kind of outdated to be honest. That's a 2020 thing. So, like, I think they know you've done that. What's more important to them is, hey, do you touch grass? Do you have friends? Right? Like, it's like a lot of very community based thing, right? Community essays, like how you're always out there with your community. So that way helped me brainstorm a lot. And then when I got to the drafting part, I just looked at all my notepads and I wrote an essay for each of my idea that came up. And then with that, I sort of chose which one was my favorite. And then, like Chimai said, I had other people read it, especially people I think are familiar with you were the ones that I had read. But I didn't have too many people read it because I realized that once you had too many people read it, everyone gave feedback sort of differently. And then you would like have to change it forever. You would never get like a perfect form. So have like a few people read it, but not everyone, because everyone's gonna have different constructive feedback and you can't fit your essay to everyone's liking.
Okay, now we're going to go on to interviews. So, what are some common interview questions and what are the best ways to tackle them?
One thing about interviews is that not every school offers them. So just make sure that like you see, like they'll tell you if they offer an interview. So some of the questions that I was asked were just like, why do you want to attend this school? Make sure that you have something not so generic, but also you're not reading off of notes because it is an interview. Like the person is a human. They are not grilling you for a job. They just genuinely want to hear why you're trying to go to this school. So have a couple of reasons, and then just talk like you normally would in a conversation. Other questions that I remember being asked were like, what's your biggest extracurricular or time commitment? Another one was actually interesting. Why didn't I apply early decision? A lot of schools actually asked me that because I was applying their regular decision. So make sure you have some kind of explanation. If it's because you applied to another school, just be honest. All of them actually asked me what other schools I applied to. They're not supposed to do that. And if they do, you can politely decline as well. I wish I did that. But they're not supposed to do that. Other questions I remember being asked are also what major I want to do and why I want to do that major. So have like a little bit, like a very short sentence anecdote of why major, not full on essay, just like a couple of sentences, just explaining clearly to the interviewer why you're interested. And then a lot of them actually asked me to ask them questions. And it's really bad to say that you have no questions. So make sure that you research the school a little bit more and see what you're actually interested in learning more about, because they do want to talk about their school for hours and hours on end. So make sure you have some questions prepared for them as well.
For interviews, I got a couple interviews, but I got rejected from every school I got an interview from. So my like take that as you will with my feedback or my take on this. I just like be yourself, like have a conversation with them. But also keep in mind I got rejected from every school that gave me an interview, so it is what it is.
Yeah, so I think adding on to what Darian said, I only had one interview and I got rejected from that school too, but I think I what I did was I basically to prepare for that interview, I just looked at Google and found like different guides on common interview questions that people ask. Like for example, the generic ones such as what are you passionate about? All the questions that Anita added, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Um, you know, why are you passionate about this stuff like that? Just kind of I would just say just really just kind of prepare those type of questions. They well, at least for me, initially I thought that I would be able to answer, but once I like started actually saying them out loud, I realized that it's a little bit harder. So I would just definitely just try to practice beforehand. They usually give you like a week or so just to kind of get a heads up. So you have that time to kind of use that to your advantage.
I was also I had like one interview and I was also rejected by that school. But one thing that stood out to me was that like they'll sometimes ask you some really random or unexpected questions. I think like a question I got was like if I had like a bunch of money, what I would like research with that or something. Or like what my like bigger aspirations in life were. So definitely prepare like specific more like college-y responses. But sometimes they'll just talk to you about whatever they feel like talking about. So make sure you also think about like your deeper philosophy or whatnot so you can actually have something meaningful to say when that comes up. Yeah.
Agree 100%. Sorry, I'm just going to add one last thing. So, because interviews really depend on the school that you're doing and also the alumni, sometimes your interviews can be 15 minutes. Sometimes my longest one was like an hour and 45 because it was in person, which was crazy. Does not matter. The length does not matter based on like if I plotted it out, there's not really much of a correlation. So basically, just try your best. Remember that they're a human person. Make sure to have a conversation with them. And yeah, hopefully, even if you don't get accepted, hopefully it's something that you learn more about and you get to practice your interview skills for the future as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. For me, the interview, everyone already went over some common interview questions. For me, it was also the same. There was one that was like, I think mine for UPenn actually was 20 minutes. She got on, she was in the library, she's like, 1 second, I need to change, Wi-Fi crashed, got on, she's like, my Wi-Fi's not very good, I have to leave soon. 20 minutes, and that was it. But my interviews for other schools were sometimes 1 hour 30. One of my interviews was actually, I think for Stanford, um, was it was 2 hours and it was at a cafe. It was she invited me to a cafe and she's like, we can we talked at the cafe for 2 hours, chatted, ate some food, and that was a really good and long interview. And funny thing was at the end of the interview, she was like, yeah, my family owned the cafe. And it was really funny to me. But I think most importantly is what I'm trying to say is there's so many different types of interviewers, and whether or not you kick it off with them is always going to vary. So that's why the interviews are, yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Interviews are not make or break because the personalities are so different. So I think the best way to tackle them is definitely have a couple responses or at least direction you think you're going to go in, like what you're going to emphasize about yourself. And then when the questions come, that'll make it a lot easier, even if you have a question that's unexpected. And I think for the UCs, because I think at least for Haas for the business school for Berkeley, it was a video interview. And for these, make sure you start recording when you actually feel prepared. I kind of just because I'm usually pretty all right at interviews, so I sort of just started the 6 minutes. I was like, I'll do fine, and then at 5:50, I realized I didn't have enough time left, and I out of nowhere I completely dropped the f-bomb and submitted the video, and so and I knew it was over for me with the UC. So make sure you take your time and do it one step at a time.
So what advice do you have on preparing for interviews and dealing with nerves?
So we did cover a little bit about the questions, but just with preparing for interviews, search up school you're applying to, common interview questions, PDF. Sometimes it'll come officially from the source. It might be like an admission officer issued document. Just go through that, and if you know why you want to go to a school, there should not be any reason you're worried. And if you are a little bit worried, just remember that they're human as well, and you can always use humor. And one thing that you can also remember is that like it's not going to make or break your application. And also one thing I always like to remember is everything happens for a reason. So even if your interview doesn't go that well, maybe it's a reason that it's not the right school for you. So all of these coping mechanisms can help, but the main one I think is just making sure you're a little bit prepared.
Yeah, exactly what Anita said. Like, just be prepared. Just like do your research and just like yeah, just do your research. And but I think I can answer the last question, right? Like dealing with the nerves. Like, how do you deal with the nerves under like something that's like relatively high stakes? I think you just gotta like I think just be yourself, right? Like it's like corny, cliche, like other words to describe corny. But I think you just gotta like just sit there and like honestly, if you get rejected, you get rejected. It's like I remember like those college decision videos. I remember like I sat through those trying to film my own. And, like it's like 8 consecutive L's, right? It's like you're gonna like take a few losses, but just like roll with it. You guys are gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think they honestly covered it. Just like prepare as much as possible. And like I think all of us, since we're like out of like the whole cycle, we're like much more relieved. But honestly, you guys are gonna be fine. Like it's not gonna be like, a big thing at the end of the day. Like it's fine. But something else I just wanted to add about the previous question was try to learn about like current events, or just like kind of be aware about what's going on. Sometimes they do ask questions about that, and you don't want to kind of look like you're like not really present. So, yeah.
Yes. So I think those are like 100%. I 100% agree with those. And especially for preparing for interviews, you definitely, like Jemai said, don't want to overlook current events. And I think during interviews, you don't want to overlook, I think, the casual, easy stuff. One of the main ways my interview and I got along was for one of my interview. I forgot for which school, but it was both of us talking about how we absolutely despise the Lakers, but we were like the Celtics because we were both from Boston, right? So we were just trashing on the Lakers the entire time, right? There's small things you guys will get along with, and that's awesome. And I think to deal with nerves, the way I really approach it is first, I think the pre-setup to the interview, if you're someone that kind of gets nervous with electronics, like say if your Wi-Fi, you should try to schedule an in-person interview. So that way you know nothing can go wrong. Like, right, if you show up, you're there. Or if you're someone that's better online, maybe you can do an online interview. I personally like the in-person more, but that's totally up to personal preference. And once you're at the interview, I think when you're speaking, you want to think yourself as someone that's very smart. They want to know about you. You can think of yourself as the best in the room. But when you're listening to other people talk, you come down and you try to learn from them, right? You have something to learn from someone. I think you kind of change roles, and that's how you really get comfortable speaking as well as listening.
Okay, now we'll be moving on to extracurricular activities. So what were some unique and effective ways that you showed your passion for your major when applying? And is there anything you wish you had?
All right, you did cut out a little bit, but we have the question on the screen. Thank you. So, in terms of passion for major, I know a lot of the time people will think that like in order to show your passion for your major, you need to do like a billion of business internships. You have to do a billion of economics internship, but that's not necessarily true. What I did is I did what I enjoyed and then I spun it around with like a unique angle of, I guess, economics or business, depending on the school that I'm applying to. So for me, I really enjoyed doing like advocacy, like for students, education advocacy, education policy. And I also did like some girls business, kind of like what Chinmay did. And then I connected that all to business in my essays or economics, depending on the school that I'm applying to. So the unique or effective way is to actually do something that you're passionate about, because then the passion for your major will show. And I wish I dedicated a little bit more time to, I think maybe trying out, maybe seeing if there's any way I can do research. I didn't really do anything too researchy. I know a lot of people say like, oh, you can do research with the professor. I would say I just wanted to try that out if that was ever a possibility, not just for college admissions. I mean, I got in without doing research, but also just to even show my passion for my major more explicitly. Yeah. So it's not a need research, but that's something that I wish I tried.
So basically, I was really like I was pretty good at econ. If you guys know about like the National Economics Challenge, like I think my team went to the finals like twice, once in like 2019, 2021. I was like, I love the YEI, shout out resources department. Love making the econ bowls, the econ Olympiads. Like I did economics clubs in high school. I think I don't know, in order to like show that you're passionate on your major, you should like do things that relate to your major. But I feel like I did like that's so like stereotypical of me. I just like took a bunch of like multiple choice tests, like, oh, I'm passionate about it. But I think it's like if you're passionate about something, I think you should be good at it. So I feel like if you want to do econ in the future, you should show that you're good at econ now and that you're willing to learn econ. At least for me, because like I applied everywhere like pure economics except for like Berkeley. Uh, is there anything I wish I dedicated more time to in high school? I wish I like hung out with my friends more. I feel like as COVID kind of like cut my junior year and senior year short. So I'm a little like I'm not like nostalgic for high school, but like yeah, I definitely wish I like made more of that time.
Yeah, so for me, I think one of like the major themes that I had in my application was like business or like finance and like tying that into women and advocacy. I had like a couple, I was a part of like different organizations that were like oriented towards like women in business. And like I started DECA at my school and yeah, I guess I just had like a bunch of business extracurriculars. And like also like I want to talk a little bit about like stuff outside of my major. I had like I've been doing like music since I was like 4, so I really highlighted that on my application. I also tied that into business as well, kind of like what Anita said and like the environmental related stuff that I did. Um, and I think adding on to what Darian said, I think I wish I would have like enjoyed a little bit more in high school as well. It can be like it can get very hectic when you're like involved in so many different things and you're just trying to make sure you're trying to keep your grades up and doing this and that. So I would just say kind of like be in the moment, kind of enjoy your time more because it's gonna go by quickly. But yeah.
Yeah, so for me, my the ways I showed my passion for my major was to my I had a lot of like or not a lot, but I had a couple of like business finance stuff, ICDC stuff like DECA, like that. But my main thing, my number one extracurricular why I applied or activity was badminton, like nowhere near my major because I was pretty decent at badminton. I was good. I was I think top 5 in the country and then like pretty decent in the Pan America area. It's like somewhere probably in the top 20-ish. And so I talked a lot about that. It's nowhere near related to my major, but I think how I sort of spun it to my major is I guess I show that I'm willing to grind through something, right? If you're going to finance, investment banking, that's like the most like you're working like 100-hour work weeks. You're like us you're just in the corporate world the entire time, right? And I guess that's a big part of finance. And I showed that I can, I can do that. Like I'm willing to put the hours in, put the time in. And that's how I was able to get good at badminton. So that's how I think I showed a quality that applied to my major, not directly something related to my major, which I preferably if I had national econ challenge, I did want that. That would be great, but I'm not that good. So, and things I wish I dedicated more time to in high school. I feel like nothing because everything that I regret is like I think a really good lesson for me. And if I didn't, if I had like a perfect balance of everything, I think I would go into college a little too, I don't know, a little too like not having learned my lesson, maybe a little too sheltered, I guess. So I think every challenge, everything, every regret I went through, I'm like perfectly happy going through it because it led me to where I am today and I'm satisfied. So
I can't speak much for the major part because I'm not an econ major anymore. I applied for econ everywhere except for like 2 schools, and like yeah, now I'm a math major. But one thing that I wish I had dedicated more time to in high school would be spending more time with friends, like making friends and whatever. Because like time passes by really quickly after everything. You'll kind of just realize, oh, like a lot of stuff actually didn't matter too much. Another thing though is I do wish I had spent more time on academics. Um, I did not do very well in one of my classes and I tanked my GPA. So if you guys are heading into, say, like junior year or whatever, um, make sure you actually maintain your grades there and don't get too carried away with your extracurriculars too, because like GPA matters, unfortunately. Yeah.
Now we will be discussing the timeline of the college application process.
So if you're going into senior year, you should already have started your Common App stage draft yesterday. And I just mean that not actually yesterday. I just mean it's time to start if you haven't already. So what that means is brainstorming. The summer of your summer of your senior year is going to be spent brainstorming, speaking to friends. Basically, we gave all the tips beforehand. You should have a draft of your Common App essay done by the start of the school year, just because you're going to be so busy. And then you're going to create like a list of all the essays that you need to write based on the schools. And then just keep yourself organized. And then that way you work on like the early schools that you're applying to first. You want to get those done obviously by the deadline. I would say get like a rough draft done at least 2 weeks before the deadline, which gives you enough time to have like teachers, friends look them over. So that's like, I'm assuming around October. And then your regular decision schools, if the early schools don't go as planned, you have to try to get those done in December, obviously. And don't leave it to winter break because I did that and it was not good. So just try to keep yourself organized and have like a rough draft of all your essays that you're applying to done at least like 2 weeks before the deadline. So people can look it over and you're not rushing them.
Anita's incredibly correct, and she put it more eloquently than I probably ever could. So I think let's just start like a little further back, right? Let's start from like, I don't know, like let's say you're like a junior now, or you're like, oh dang, I'm thinking about college, I think be like, or like you're going to junior. It's like, how can you like make the best application currently in order to like have an effective essay like going to senior year? So I think just like I don't know. I think just like enjoy life, Like do what you enjoy doing, do your more extracurriculars, like just give yourself like stories to write about. I feel like once you have like the story to write about, and then like the summer going into senior year, it's gonna be a breeze writing these essays. So I feel like, yeah, and then just follow the process Anita laid out for the after you get to summer. But yeah, I think the like yeah, just start like building your stories.
So I think Darian and Anita covered a lot about like, writing like the timeline for writing essays and stuff. And I completely agree, but I also want to kind of talk a little bit about like college lists and stuff, which can take time. So what I did was over the summer, so like let's say this time last year when I'm going into my senior year, I basically just like I had a very generic list of schools that I kind of wanted to apply to based on like your major location, et cetera, or any other factor that you guys are going to be considering. But basically, I would say try to like get like a very solid list of the colleges you're going to be applying to by the end of summer because I know some friends and I know it's also happened to me towards like October, November. there's obviously a bunch of schools and you want to make, and there's, for example, on the Common App, there's only 20 slots. So you want to make sure that you're kind of optimizing that space and making sure that you know which schools you're applying to. Because I know everyone says, oh, like don't procrastinate, but it is gonna happen to like an extent. So I would just say, like, honestly, just be sure to kind of have that list down. Be sure to kind of work through your supplements. So let's say you have some wiggle room in case you do end up adding like another college or something. But yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think starting with the summers, or just the summers before freshman year, just sophomore, junior year, like Darren said, do a lot of what you want to do a lot of, but also productive, obviously. If say you wanted to go to, if you wanted to party though, that's obviously not what we mean, right? So do like things you want to do that's also beneficial to you, because a lot of the time the summer is literally just about you getting up and doing something, right? You're not getting out of shape. You're not losing like intelligence points just lying there doing nothing, right? And then for the essay writing part, yeah, definitely have it done before. This is really important, especially with what Chimai said. Like, you need to have a college list in order to make sure your essay writing is done on time. Because for me, I didn't realize I wouldn't get my green card on time for college apps, which meant I was going to be applying as international. That meant your like it makes the acceptance like 3 or 4 times harder. So I realized that I needed more colleges. I didn't have enough because the chances suddenly went down a lot for a lot of the colleges that I thought I had a chance in, because they took like 5 international students a year from China. And so I ended up applying to like 28 colleges, and 8 of those I added, or like a lot of those I added really last moment. And I ended up for 1 week from December 30th to January like 5th, I wrote 5 school supplements every single day. And I submitted like 6 schools late. And I literally, on Common App, I will say there's a buffer time. If you submit like a day late, it's fine. But don't do that, because I submitted late and I was in like a horrible panic for a lot of the schools. So make sure you get your college list in, because you could be like super on time, but the moment you realize you need to apply to more colleges, everything suddenly just gets completely messed up. And that's what happened to me. I literally sat from 4 p.m. to 3 a.m. for like 4 days in a row and wrote the supplements for every single school for 5 schools a day, and then just kept doing that. So don't do that.
Moving on, what makes a program incentivizing to apply to, and what opportunities do you have with a degree in economics?
Because there's a lot of us, I'll talk about the first part, and then maybe the people who are in college already can talk about the second part. So first and foremost, okay, it depends. So obviously you want to be researching these schools. Incentivizing can be the courses that there are, like you actually need to make sure that you're interested in the courses that program offers, and you can just search up school, the major. So let's say Penn economics courses. For me, it was Wharton. So like Penn, Wharton, economics courses, and then you have a course list. You need to make sure that you're actually interested in a couple of those courses, because if you were to get in, you would have to be taking them. Another thing that makes a program incentivizing is also the actual university community. So like Chinmai said, you need to make sure that you're researching the city, urban campus feel, if that's what you're into, or the rural campus. Just need to make sure that you are also able to engage with the broader university community. I also think one other thing that you need to remember is community in the sense of clubs and extracurriculars, to make sure that there is something that you're interested in, something that you can write about, but something that you would actually genuinely join if you were to get accepted. Yeah, that was a couple things. I think the others can fill in the spots that I didn't.
Exactly what Nita said for like researching these programs. Like make sure like it's like worth applying to, right? Because like you're applying to that school, but like they choose to accept or reject you, but then you get to choose to accept or reject them. So remember, it's like don't like waste money on the application fee if like you're for sure not going to the school. But I think that I can actually speak on the second part a little more. Like what opportunities do you have with the degree in economics? So it also depends on like what you want to do, right? Do you want to go into like data science? Do you want to go into consulting? Do you want to go into IB? Do you want to go into finance, like corporate finance? There are a lot of avenues you can use with an economics degree, but you're very limited if you want to go to grad school in economics if you don't have like an additional math or stats background. So I'm a math, econ, and like stats data science major out of necessity. So I came in as like an econ major, became biz econ, picked up the stats major, and then switched to math, econ, and stats because like I really liked economic research. So I work for two professors currently for economic research. One guy does networks, the other guy does like healthcare economics. So I'm also applying to the master's program at UCLA, and they require like linear algebra, real analysis, like Calc 1 through 3. So like they need a bunch of math for that. So it depends like what you want to do with this degree. So if you want to go into like master's level economics or like PhD level economics, you definitely need like higher math. But if you just have an economics degree, I think what really matters are clubs. It's like there's gonna be a big club fair for the first, like, I don't know, week 1 or week 2 or week 3 of like your school. And make sure you apply these finance clubs. Because I know UCLA, these clubs have like, I don't know, less than like a 6 to 8% acceptance rate for new members. So it's like apply to as many clubs as you can and get in. And they're also kind of fun. You got to go to like retreats, like I don't know, like party a little bit too. But like I definitely think it's definitely worth doing that because they give you like opportunities. Like you get to talk to people in the industries, like people that have these internships. So I think what it ultimately depends on is like your first month in college, like make friends, but also apply to these clubs. Like find out which clubs like what you're into, right? Like are you into like investment making? Are you into like finance? Are you into like consulting? Find these clubs and apply. So I think like yeah, the economics degree is important, but like what you do outside of that degree is like probably even more important.
So I'll come back some more of answering like the first part of the question, but I think for me, obviously Anita and Darren covered like most of it, but something, obviously just like if you want to do something related to business, I would say that at least what I've been told is that networking and alumni relations are like very important. And try to choose a school that will provide you the opportunities to try to get a good job after you graduate and connect you with the right people so you can succeed. And I think just in general, like obviously there's so many different factors that I took into account, such as research, which I forgot who mentioned it, but someone mentioned it. There's also like study abroad that other people consider, and financial aid and basically other different factors that are all you should all like take into account when you're trying to apply to a program. But I would say I think the main thing for me kind of came down to just looking for schools that offered a good like finance program, which I wanted to do. And obviously the location, because I feel like New York or like any city is very good for trying to place you to a job or like just trying to get you um a good job. So yeah.
Yeah, so I guess for the programs, I think um I'm not econ, I'm finance, but so if you're like looking more at the finance businessy stuff, what made the program like more incentivized for me to apply to, I think really came down to four things: the prestige of the program, the location, the costs, and the culture of the school. I honestly do think the prestige is the most important part of a finance undergrad degree. I can't say that for sure, but finance is, I think, one of those degrees where it's like the prestige of your undergrad school matters a lot. It can the network, the whether or not it's a target school, uh, although like I hate to say it, it's one of those things that having that on your resume will make employers look at your resumes a lot more. And the second thing is location. Jemai already covered that. So number three, I think cost is very important. I didn't realize that until the actual bill came in, like on my account, and I was like, wow, like this is horrible. And I I really think really apply to programs that you can handle the cost of, and because I'll just say it straightforward, no undergrad degree is worth taking out over like 300,000 of debt to go to, right? You need something that's like affordable, right? Like slight debt is fine, but if you're going to finance or econ, you should know that going to a prestigious program but being 360K in debt is absolutely not the best idea. And exactly, yeah. And then the culture, I think, is also pretty important. I think there's schools that have cultures for like club culture, different things, and those are actually pretty important when you want to hang out or get a job and things like that. Certain schools are more closeted. For example, NYU, everyone says we don't have a campus, um, and everyone always kind of hate on us for that. So if you want somewhere with a campus, absolutely do not apply to NYU because we say we have an open campus, but like in reality, we don't really have a campus.
All right, and Jessica, would you like to add anything to that?
Mm, honestly, I think what Anita mentioned about like you looking through the course lists for each university is really helpful. That's part of the reason why I decided to apply to like my math program instead, because I thought the courses there for Davis specifically were pretty interesting. Um, and I don't have anything to add for the second question. Yeah, just broadly for econ, you can really do anything. It's like a very general degree, unless, like Darian said, you get very mathy or like you focus on finance. So, one thing is like if you really do want to do research in econ, pick a school where they have like a research focus that you like. Like if you are not interested in agricultural economics, like don't go to Davis. But if you are, then I guess that's a good place to go to. So, yeah.
Beyond academics, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
I would say mental health is not like something you just hear, but like I remember like second semester junior year, I was very, very stressed with like my future, just things going on at home. And I forgot to take out time for myself for self-care. So I think one of the biggest things is being able to sit down and understand that this topic is very real. I know it's like a little bit of a taboo sometimes, but like remember that you're fueling yourself with food, making sure that you're actually giving yourself at least 30 minutes of exercise a day, literally just going on a walk, going outside, and making sure that you're hanging out with friends and with your family, because those are things that helps me feel fulfilled. And other people might have other things, but just remembering that you have to put yourself first sometimes. And that starts with self-care. And that way you can like overcome that challenge of the mental health a little bit faster.
Yeah, for me, beyond academics, the biggest challenge I faced was like not being in shape. So I definitely recommend like going to the gym earlier. I went to the gym like I think my first day ever was April 2021, like somewhere in there after I got broken up with. So yeah, my boy took me. So just like but I would definitely wish I went to the gym earlier. I think it's like I don't know, like I think physical health is also important as well as mental health. So I think like definitely work on your physical health if you have the opportunity to.
So I definitely agree on like taking time for yourself. That's extremely important. And also just like something I would just say is this like whole application cycle and this whole like college application thing, sometimes it can get kind of toxic. I don't know if that's like a strong word, but I mean it's a pretty stressful time. Everyone's trying to, grind, everyone's trying to do this and that, and it can get very busy for your mental health too, and it can impact your mental health. So I would just say, like honestly, just um I think kind of highlighting on the self-care part, if you kind of take time for yourself, kind of stay grounded and stuff like that, I think you should be fine. But um just remember that you'll be fine at the end of the day, and that everyone can kind of get through this, and it's not, you guys will be fine, and don't like stress too much about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Chinmay said. So everything will be okay. Like for me, something that I had to come to terms with was, okay, I'm not gonna go to like my dream school, but I can like still do things to make up for that. Like, I don't know, graduating early or like picking up something that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do otherwise. So it's like, hey, if one thing doesn't work out, you will have other opportunities to like try out something else. So everything will be okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my biggest challenge was definitely moving. So I moved like a lot of times for 3 different countries, like 7, 8 different cities. Like I lived in Pennsylvania, I lived in Beijing, I've lived in London, I lived in a lot of places, and so obviously language barrier, culture barrier, and a lot of those things. So I think for me, I really found a community in each of these places, which was badminton for me, and like put myself out there. I know this sounds like a really PR trained answer, but you really want to put yourself out there at new places as you guys start going to college, thinking about applying to college, you might move to a place very foreign to you. So just put yourself out there and find something that you really want to be a part of, and then slowly you'll find yourself integrating integrating really well into the community, and building a lot of new friendships and things like that.
And lastly, what are some tips for managing your workload?
Planning ahead. Like I did procrastinate, but because I planned ahead, I was able to submit all my schools on time. Sorry, sorry, Sichan. Anyways, and then you use the spreadsheet. So I used the spreadsheet and I was able to track myself. I also have like a little timeline. I just used ChatGPT to create. I didn't really know how to use like Google Sheet formulas, but I'm like, I want this. Create a formula for me. And that really helped me know how many days were left for each of my schools. And it was kind of like automated for me. So I can go onto that spreadsheet and see how much time I have to relax or whether I actually have to start grinding for those schools now. Yeah, so having a visual layout really helped for me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not too organized, so I didn't really have that. That was actually pretty cool, like having like that Google Sheets. Like, that's actually kind of cool. Let's see if I can do that. But I think that just managing your workload, I think at the end of the day, right, you kind of just gotta like do it, if that makes sense. Don't like put it off, but just like, oh, there's that quote about that president. It's like something about doing it today, not tomorrow. Yeah. Oh no. Oh no, no. It's like a key commercial. It's like good things come to those who wait. Great things come to those who get them. So I feel like you just gotta go out there and get it.
Yeah, so I do agree with what both of them said. I actually had a very effective spreadsheet as well with like formulas and stuff. Basically with just that calculated like how many days were left and stuff like that. But what I did was I also used Google Sheets for like writing out like creating like tables and stuff. So that I'm like a visual learner, so just creating tables where I could see like the 5 activities I would write in the comment app, my 10 activities, the words. I had like a formula that said like, oh, how many characters were left in like the description, because for each of the activities in the comment app you have to do like a little description, and like the title. And something else is I use Google Calendar like a lot during high school for like time blocking meetings and different things that I had like in-person events or whatever. So I think there's many like resources available online right now that you can use, and just I think just find what works for you. Like Google Calendar and Google Sheets worked for me, but obviously you can just use, some people would like use Google like Notes or like a doc or something. So just try to find what is helpful for you, and I think that that will really help you manage your workload.
Yeah, so for me, I like Darren, I can't speak to the organized part. I'm not very organized, but I guess for just getting your work done or just doing your work, I think what helped for me was I had like this pretty strict rule where it's like any time that like, so basically any time that I spent with my friends, or any time that I was outside doing social stuff or whatever it might be, I would match that with how much I was doing my work. So at least it kept me like on a balance. So if I played with my friends a lot, I would also do a lot of work. So that so it really balanced out. And also I think a big part of managing a workload is not actually the amount of work you have, it's the amount of time you're wasting. So like if you're wasting a lot of time on TikTok, YouTube, stuff like that, just delete it. Like I just like for me, what I did, I just deleted my account. Or you can like if your parents are good with the network, you can just ask your parents to ban whatever thing is making you super distracted. Like for me, I play poker a lot, and I ended up like kind of playing too much. And I played with my friends with like small bets, which was like pretty unhealthy. So I ended up I was like I told my dad, I was like, please just ban poker on my like the poker website on my computer, so that way I wouldn't like do that to waste time. And then that helped me have more time, which in turn made me do my workload much easier without having to super manage like a lot, because I just had enough time to do it.
Yeah, I think time management is something that I've like always struggled with. So just having time that you can block out for stuff is good. What Seton said about deleting stuff, I think that is a very good tip. Like if I could have gone back, I probably would have like deleted Reddit, deleted Instagram, deleted like everything. Would have made me a lot more productive. So yeah, if there's stuff that's distracting you, like get rid of that. Yeah.
Moving on, we will now open the floor for any speaker-specific questions. So if you have any additional questions, now is the time to ask. For the sake of time, we'll take 4 questions, and we'll have one panelist answer each question.
So to the viewers here, if you guys have any questions that you felt were unanswered in this discussion today, feel free to just unmute and ask the question.
Thanks for great wisdom, everybody. I have a quick question. Where do you decide where to EA to? I understand that your ED schools obviously where you really want to go, but in terms of applying early, how do you decide?
Okay, one of the panelists can choose to answer this question. You guys can just unmute.
Yeah, so I think I can cover a little bit of that. So I actually chose to EA to a school rather than ED because I just didn't want to like commit myself to any school. But obviously EA is like not restrictive, at least for like some of the schools. So for me, I had 3 options that I could apply to. That was Harvard, Princeton, or Yale for EA. And I think personally, I just like out of those 3 schools, I just chose a school that I felt that like had the best program that I was looking for. Obviously those 3 schools are like really good schools, but I mean like specifically for like finance or whatever I wanted to do. But I would say just like EA, if it's like not restrictive and you can apply to like multiple schools, I would just try to get as many early action schools out as possible so you kind of get those done quickly, and then you get to know like if you got admitted or rejected or deferred early on, so you can kind of plan accordingly. But if you are doing like a restricted type of thing, I would say honestly only apply if you really think you have a good shot. That's what I would say. Or like you know, if there's some other factor. But I'm not sure if I really answered that specifically, but I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and a huge thank you to all our panelists. If you have any further questions you would like to inquire about, you can reach us via email. Our email is events@theyei.org, and it's at the bottom right of the slide.
All right, now it's picture time. So if we could get everyone to turn on their cameras for a quick picture, that would be great. And if anyone's uncomfortable with being featured on our socials, you are always welcome to leave your camera off. So we'll just wait a few seconds for you guys to be able to turn on your cameras, and then we'll take the picture.
Yeah, so I'll be taking the picture, but everyone doesn't fit in one slide. So I'm just gonna count to 3, like 3 times, and I'm gonna take 3 different pages, if that's fine with you guys. And Alan, could you unshare the screen for a second? Okay. Okay, I'll take the picture. Everyone get ready. 3, 2, 1. And then 3, 2, 1. Okay, so actually 2 slides fit, so. And then Alan, maybe you can send the feedback form in the chat.
Yeah, so if any of you guys have any positive, neutral, or negative comments about today's alumni panel, our staff team would love to hear it. So please make your way to the link that is on the screen and complete the form. Doing so does help us implement effective changes for future events.
So that's it for YEI's alumni panel. Thank you all for attending. And again, a huge thank you to our panelists. If you have any additional questions or comments, feel free to email us at events@theyei.org. Our last announcement today is that we're hiring. If you're interested in what the YEI does, you should apply for a position. That the current available positions are displayed. And if you're interested, go to the link displayed on the screen. And if you want to stay updated, follow us on the Instagram or our Discord server. And for additional information about the YEI, make your way to theyei.org. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining. Bye.
Wait,
I love